But it felt like this is never going to get better, you know? And I felt bad because when he would have an accident, I'd get mad. Like, dude, this is like the 200th time that, you know, this is like the millionth time that we've told you and we talked about this and then there'll be like days of like, oh, he did it. And then back to another 2-3 days and it's like, oh, no way, you know? So, and those are the times that you're like, I don't know what to do. And nothing's working. It's just the same old cycle. What's up, my friends? Shout out to all the Proud Papis out there. On today's episode, we are going to talk about potty training. That's right, potty training. Go ahead and check it out. So when I'm at work, Ruthie will text me, you know, just like funny little things that the kids are doing. And of course, it just seems like they do like the cutest or the funniest or the most shareable things when I'm at work. There. Yeah. And then when I get there, they're just like, "Hey, what's up, Dad?" Yeah. Just like hanging out, you know. But anyways, she shared this. So Dalia loves music. You know, Ruthie always has music going on in the house, and we've kind of noticed that Dalia started to she starts to dance with songs. They love like the Trolls movies, which are basically just musicals, you know.
Kids Bop.
Yeah, Kids Bop. Yeah, pretty much. And so, but Ruthie was playing this, she has Spanish music that's going, and she played this song, and then she noticed that Dalia actually started singing.
Oh.
Yeah, so check this out.
Okay.
And like when she's on the ground and that song's playing, like she'll start like, and then the way like she moves her hips, like Ruthie will like dance with her and like kind of show her how to move, but then like she's starting to like actually try to twist her hips and everything. And I'm like, yo, girl, slow down. But dude, I thought that was like the cutest thing that she's like starting to sing. You know,
well, isn't it funny too that like they do that naturally, and then when they realize they have the attention of somebody or someone else sees, they're like. It's one of two things. They either like lean into it and just go super hard, or like, oh, I'm not doing anything, you know, and kind of ignore it. So
yeah, she honestly doesn't like. Well, no, I can't say she doesn't get shy. She gets shy, definitely for sure. She'll like stop and smile, or like, you know, or like walk away or something. But right before I got here, Ruthie put the song on again. She's like, I want you to see this in person. And so she put it on and she did it again. She's like, whoa, whoa. Like the way she like shapes her mouth and everything. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm always like, yes. Yeah. You know, I want the kids to love music. Music was a big part of us, you know, our upbringing. And so, and Ruthie's a great singer. I am not. So if that rubs off on them, I would love that.
Yeah.
You know, and because I'd love for them to sing. And so, I don't know. I was like, okay, cool. Like, I think one of my friends told me, like, you know, every time I see Dalia, I see Ruthie when I look at her.
Oh, that's funny.
And physically, it's true. Yeah. She looks just like her. But a lot of her personality is honestly Ruthie too.
Right.
Like Ruthie's like such an introvert, and it takes a while for Ruthie to kind of warm up in front of new people. Mm-hmm. But if you want to know like what Ruthie's like, look at Dalia. That's how Ruthie, like seriously, like she's just like unashamed, funny, goofy, like you know. And so that's So I wanted to share that because I thought that was like, again, these are like moments that I'm watching. I'm like, the kids are growing up way too fast.
Well, because it's true.
Because
I wonder how much exposure do you give your kids to like the Spanish or the Mexican culture? Like, are you like intentional about that, or is that just kind of like?
I'm not. Yeah, Ruthie is though, and like even more so with Dalia. Like Ruthie is like turned it up to 10 with Dalia, and I think it's because Ruthie wants the kids to have that.
Yeah.
But like we didn't really speak Spanish to the boys.
Right.
And then Dalia was born, and then she was just like determined, like, I'm going to speak nothing but Spanish to her. And she does. And then I do. And then the boys have been speaking more Spanish to her. So, like, she says, thank you in English. She says some things in English.
Yeah.
But she understands Spanish. She's able to speak some Spanish words. So, and then the music and kind of the culture, like, things like that. Like Ruthie's a lot more intentional with all the kids than I am, because that's the way she grew up.
Right.
Where we didn't grow up with that necessarily.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that, because Narcy our sister probably had the most exposure to a Spanish language, not necessarily culture. I think maybe we weren't like as interested, or I'm not exactly sure, but like I feel like Narcy had a very different experience. So I wonder, like, as a female, is that kind of more of a gear or more of like a leaning to the culture than for the boys?
Yeah, it could be. For Ruthie, it could be. It could be like, my daughter's going to know how to speak both languages and also understand like who she is.
Right.
Which I'm like, yes, like I want all my kids to have that,
Yeah.
To be proud that they're Mexican, they're not, we're Mexican Americans, that's where we come from. You have to remember with Narcy, like was over with our tia Marta.
Yeah, that's true.
And she watched her and babysat her. And tia Marta doesn't speak very much English at all. It's all Spanish. And tia Marta is also the type of person of like, this is who I am. This is who you are. Here.
Yeah.
I remember when we used to get babysat by tia Marta when we lived in those apartments off of Olive Street.
Right.
And we would go over there. My parents would work, and so we would have to go over there when we got home from school. Tia Marta would make us food. And I remember like sitting at the table going, I don't like this. And Tia Marta's like, well, you're going to eat it. And there was no
nonsense.
Yeah. And like to the point where I was like crying because I didn't want to eat it. But she's like, that's what you're eating. I made it. Just driving for dinner, and like, but Narcy grew up, and then, the whole like dynamic of Tia Marta didn't have a daughter. So honestly, that's like Narcy's second mom.
Right.
And so, and again, so she was raised that way. Like,
right. So
Narcy got a lot more exposure to Spanish, like being spoken to in Spanish at home than we did in that way.
Yeah.
And our dad spoke a lot of Spanish too. But as somebody who came to this country, started working, trying to get better at his English, he chose to speak more English with us, you know? So
I just wonder if there's just a connection between the two. I don't know if it's just more of like the maternal, like, I guess, traditional roles of like, you're going to be kind of the homemaker and kind of the charge of home. And so these are things that we've learned from our mothers, and that's leaned heavier into culture. But
honestly, that's a great, like, I think Ruthie would probably, I wouldn't know really. Like Ruthie would have, all I know is that when Dalia was born, Ruthie's like, I'm like 100%, turned it all the way up to 10. Like, this is what I'm going to do with her. And I'm like, do it, please. Like, yes. Like unfortunately I can't, like I'm limited,
Right.
I'm not going to be able to give that even to the boys. Like, all I can tell them is like, look, this is who we are. Like, but ask your Ito, ask your grandpa about this, ask your mom about, like, ask your grandmas, about this. Like, I'm limited, bro. Like, I can't really help you. You know what I mean? Like, I know some Spanish, but I'm just limited. So I don't know. Maybe it's some of, the maternal thing. Although Ruthie isn't necessarily like that either. She isn't really like, because remember, her parents split up. So like, when she was in her early teens, like she didn't have mom and dad at home at the same time. Right. So going to both places was always different. You kind of had to pick up the slack of whatever was missing. So,
right.
So yeah, that's a great question though.
Yeah,
I think I'm going to ask.
Maybe that's for the Proud Mommy podcast.
Yes. Yeah. Proud Mommy Podcast coming soon. Proud Mommy Podcast. So I kind of wanted to, so the boys are past this phase, but as Dalia continues to get older, I'm like, okay, so I have to brace myself because like, here we go with potty training again. Okay. This is a girl, so I've never experienced what potty training is like with the girl, only with the boys. But I thought, I feel like potty training is one of those like seasons of parenthood that you're like, you're not sure how it's gonna go, but you kind of are always like trying to. And I feel it's like it's a season that nobody ever really like can go in like 100% prepared either. You're
right,
because the child and you are both trying to figure it out at the same time. So I kind of wanted us to share just about like what it was like potty training the boys, and what were some of the success stories, the failed stories, some of the hard times. So yeah, I don't know. Share like what do you? What was potty training James like?
I feel like I was very fortunate because there was always an interest with him when it came to potty training. When he could realize like, oh, I could go into pee in the toilet by myself.
Right.
So, I mean, I feel like he made it very easy for us. Yeah. I think we were able to like fully train him out of diapers. I think less than like 3 months. Yeah. Wow. He was like once he like, and it was one of those things. And I think that speaks to not being ready, because they'll let you know when they're like interested or like when they're ready. Right. So a lot of this is like, are you sure you want to, kind of thing. And I know for your boys that there are two different experiences, but for my one, it was very easy. He always kind of had an interest to kind of doing that. And then I think the biggest switch was switching from diapers into underwear and acknowledging that like, oh, okay, well, if I need to go, I need to tell mom and dad. Yeah. And we only had, I think, just a handful of accidents. So he was very good about knowing like, oh, well, this doesn't feel right. Like I should let them know. Yeah. And of course, like as a parent, again, we're very fortunate we were home all the time. So like if he needed to go, he could let us know and then we could walk him straight. So it was like about us being prepared at any minute. Like, and of course the potty dance. Sometimes the parents know and the kids don't, right?
For sure. Yeah.
So I think there's definitely that aspect to it. But I mean, as far as for me, I'm sorry, I don't have like crazy stories, but for me, it was really, it was kind of fun.
Wow. So, potty training was fun.
Yeah, it was kind of fun.
Now, did you guys do like a point system or a sticker system to kind of like, no? Wow.
No, it was a lot of encouragement and applause.
Yeah.
When he did do that right.
Yeah.
But I don't believe, I mean, we do a system now just for kind of good characteristics and stuff, but I don't think we even needed to do that. Cause I mean, I might have to check with Jan to see when. I want to say that happened like around like 2.5. So like he's not quite understanding the idea of rewards,
right,
truly yet. So, but like I said, I mean, he was interested. So for him, like half of it was like, well, this is fun, kind of thing. And then of course, like the hardest thing is that when they needed to go, number 2, like he needed hands to kind of get up there. So
for sure.
But so wow, pretty easy. I know.
Wow, potty training is fun, guys.
We're on the process of number 2, and I know that might be a completely different process for number 2, but yeah.
James, I mean, so I think. Well, I'll say this. So like the boys, and I'm not going to name them, just because I don't want one to come back later and see this and be like, wow, did Dad really talk about me when I was like, So yeah, anyway, I'm not doing that. So both of the boys, like, 2 different experiences. One of my sons, like, a little bit of a slow start, but caught on, understood. We tried the sticker, like every time they go, every time he went, we like stick a sticker on the wall. That didn't last very long though, because we didn't really see like he wasn't connecting with it like we thought he would. Yeah. But he like caught on, and same thing. Like had a handful of accidents. But it was fairly easy. I wouldn't say it was fun, but at the same time, like my patience wasn't really there either.
It's hard.
So I think a lot of it had to do with my own perspective, or my own issues. My other son, it was really hard. Like it was like very hard. Like he would have accidents like daily. like, and this was after we transitioned into underwear. Like it was very difficult to the point where me and Ruthie, like, we don't know what to do. Like, we don't know if we're doing it right. Mm-hmm. Did we do something wrong? Did we mess him up? Did we traumatize him? Did we now make him think that, the toilet is a scary thing because every time he has an accident, we just get upset with, like all those things came through our mind, because I think when things are going good, it's like, well, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing because it's working, which is great. Like if potty training is fun, don't change anything. Keep doing what you're doing. You know what I mean? Like even if it's not like 100% like a success, like even if your kid is still having accidents and like if it's fun, like if it's enjoyable for them and you, like then don't change anything. Like, I think that's the most important thing. But for my one of my sons, like it was not the case. It was at times it felt like this is never. It felt like it. I say that dramatically, right? But it felt like this is never going to get better, And I felt bad because when he would have an accident, I'd get mad. Like, dude, this is like the 200th time that this is like the millionth time that we've told you and we talked about this and then there'll be like days of like, oh, he did it, and then back to another 2-3 days and it's like, oh, no way. So, and those are the times that you're like, I don't know what to do. Nothing's working. It's just the same old cycle. And so, so Ruthie and I had a kind of a hard time. Thankfully though, not a problem anymore. Yeah. Or hasn't been a problem for a while. And so, which is great. Like it makes us feel like, okay, like, and a lot of it was, do we let him tell us when he's ready? Like when he was little, we kind of started seeing kind of a pattern and we're like, well, maybe he's not ready, maybe we don't need to rush him out of diapers quite yet. Like I had a friend tell me like, no, he'll tell you when he's ready to go, and so we're like, okay. So we kind of like not even worried about it, but then it was like, okay, well, we got to transition to underwear sometime. And so we did. And then we were like, okay, well, it might take him a little bit to kind of get it. And then it was like, okay, well, now he's still doing it. Okay, now he's going to daycare, right? Now he's in kindergarten, still having issues. Okay, wow, this is first grade. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, when is this going to stop? Right. And then it felt like we were buying tons of underwear. Like, oh my gosh. So now we're buying underwear like crazy, So it was hard. It was hard for sure. But again, I think a lot of it had to do with our perspective of, at least I'm not going to speak for Ruthie, but at least my, like, having the patience, being able to, make him feel great when he did it, and then not be so hard on him when he didn't. Yeah. Because I think a lot of it was maybe he was, and then like you talk about, you see the signs and you're like, you got to go. And then he was like, no. Yeah, you do. I've seen that before. You got to go. Yeah. No, I don't. Okay. Did you go? Did you go in your underwear? No. No, I think you went. No, I didn't. Like, play this whole game. We get in the bathroom. I'm like, let me see. I see. I'm like, bro. And he's like, what? Yeah. And it's like, dude.
Well, I mean, it is. The reason it is difficult, it's one of the first times where you're not really like in control of something, and there's very much like a partnership that needs to happen with your kids. Yeah. Where it's very much like, and those fears creep in all the time. Am I doing this right? Like, was it too soon? Is it not soon enough? Right. What are other people going to think? For sure. You don't want your kids to be made fun of, when they're older. And so there's a lot of like, there is a lot of anxiety that can kind of creep in into that. I mean, I know I said that it was fun. It was a good time. But there were definitely times where I'm like, I don't know if I'm doing this right either. Yeah. Is he ever going to kind of get this? And again, like in all things in life, everyone will reach their limit at their set time, right? That's, for sure. That's one of the things that makes kids so beautiful, is that they're all very different from each other. It makes it frustrating because you think, oh, like, and again, I'm sure I'm going to feel it when I have number 2, but I was like, you know, like, oh, I've got this down. Like we nailed through this, you know, for so-and-so. And so, you know, this should be easy. And it's not every kid is kind of,
it's different.
It's all different.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's different. You know, I think for me, like a lot of my lack of patience had to do with like an embarrassment because I felt like this is a reflection of me as a parent. You know, I'm like, it is. He's a kid. You know what I mean? Like he's going to have accidents. Yeah. I can't be like, well, that's not my problem, bro. Like I'm good. Like I can go to the bathroom just fine. It's just, you know, like, no, it's a reflection of me as a parent. And honestly, like to an extent it is, but I also think I really played up that thought in my mind and not like giving myself the grace to understand like, dude, you're figuring this out just like they're figuring this out. You know, like nobody is going to have this or any like one thing like mastered. You know, like a few weeks ago, I talked about the 5 things I've learned about fatherhood. I've only been a dad for 9 years. And this potty training the kids was like, you know, Mateo was 6. So the last time I had to potty train a kid was like, you know, 4-5 years ago. Like it's been a while, right? Yeah. So like nobody really like masters, you know, something like that. Now I'm interested to see what this is going to be like with Dalia. Yeah. Because again, I've never potty trained with the girl. Yeah. You hear things like, well, they're more advanced. Like they learn things a lot quicker. From what I've seen, like with Dalia, with other things, like I'm like, okay, I could see that, but that doesn't mean that, you know, just a piece of cake, you know, like, you know, like Meet the Parents, like how Jinx the cat goes to the bathroom. It's not gonna be like that, you know, like there's a bathroom, just go whenever you want, you know. But I'm interested to see like if it's like what it's gonna be. You know, a little part of me is nervous just to like do it again, but part of me is like, well, I mean, that is a girl. Maybe it's different. Maybe she'll get it. Maybe she won't. I don't know. You know. But I think like when we're potty training, and this I think goes with anything, like giving ourselves like, hey, like you're gonna do this at its own, like they're gonna do it at their own pace, right? And it's not so much a reflection of you being a bad parent. Yeah, you know, I think we just have to give ourselves the room to kind of like let it happen. You know,
no, that's really good. I mean, like we're obviously speaking to kind of dads, and you know whether you've been through the process or you're going through it or you're not looking forward to it in the future. I think in everything in parenthood, it's like having grace upon yourself, having grace on your kids through kids, right? And so, you know, I think for us it's easy to get frustrated because it's like, oh, it's so easy, you know, like, come on, man, it's so clear, but their brain is developing in ways that are very rapid and kind of making those connections, right? And so I think, you know, the best thing we can do is to offer grace and show our kids like, hey, you'll get it, you know, give that encouragement to your kids that, you know, that you're going to be there and alongside them. And I think it's very easy to just be, you know, having high expectations, you know, in something, without, you know, giving any grace. And so then it just becomes, you know, a bit, I guess, legalistic, or it comes, you know, more of this connection of, you know, say what, you know, do what I say, not what I do kind of thing. So, you know, if you want your kids to be more empathetic, then you need to show them empathy. Right?
For sure.
So,
yeah. When it comes to potty training, if there was one thing you could have done better, what would have that been?
I think I nailed it. So, no, I think, you know what? I probably would have. I would probably want to be in more communication with my wife. I think too often it's like, you know, okay, you know, who's on for the run this time, you know, kind of thing, and kind of dreading it, as opposed to like really trying to kind of communicate and setting the plan forward. Yeah. And encouraging, because, you know, it is true. There can be moments where, and I feel like nothing is more frustrating than like them letting you know, And then right before you get there, it's like, I just missed it, right? And so it's so easy to get frustrated in those moments.
See, and those get frustrating because especially when you're potty training a child that is having a hard time of letting you know.
Yeah,
like they're either afraid to let you know or they just not letting you know. And then the time they let you know, you're like, okay, let's go. And of course, it's somewhere, it's not home.
Right.
You're somewhere else, and the bathroom has to be a mile away. So that you are running with your kid. You're like, okay. Like, you're just like, oh, good job, buddy. Thank you so much for telling me. We'll get you there. You get there, and...
if you think about it, I mean, especially if you pick them up, their body's loose, right? So
I know, but there's also no way we're making it way down there.
It's true, what I mean? It's true.
But your kid's just like, bro, I went as soon as I told you. Like there was no. But it gets frustrating because it's like, dang it, they told me, you just didn't make it in time. Like,
well, and I mean, again, that leans back to like, I let them down. Right?
Yeah,
like
for
they
sure.
let me know.
Yeah.
And I didn't fill my end of the bargain kind of thing. But
especially when you have that like internal clock in your mind where you're like, I should probably ask them if they have to go to the bathroom. Yeah. Because it's about that time.
It's been about 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So
and then you don't. You're like, oh, well, they look fine. They're just playing. And then you're just doing your thing. And then 2 minutes later, Dad, I got to go to the bathroom. You're like, dang it, I knew it.
Yeah.
So those definitely get frustrating.
Well, and then you get in situations, you go to the park and then they just get so excited.
Yes.
They don't think about it.
Yes.
Right? So
yeah.
You're like, okay, well, I should have known that. Kind of thing. Like, I should have said, let's just take a little break and remind them we'll come right back.
Yeah.
Let's just go check. And I think like later towards those stages, that was more of where I was leaning to, is just like, let's just go check.
Yeah.
Right. Let's just go make sure. And I think that was easier as opposed to like, do you need to go now? kind of thing.
Yeah.
It was more of like, oh, you know what? It's just always good to be thoughtful of it.
Yeah.
Right. So, but yeah, I mean, for me, the one thing would probably, being more on the same team. And I think as much as they need the encouragement, we need the encouragement too. Right?
Yeah.
Like we're going through this process together. And so, praise your successes and encourage in your defeats kind of thing. So.
Yeah. Okay, here's a question. If your kid has to go to the bathroom and you're at the park and there's no bathroom at the park, you letting them go in the bushes?
Oh, you're talking about nature piece, huh?
Yeah. We're talking about number one here.
Yeah, I mean, as a boy, it's I think it is different for a boy and a girl.
Yeah, for sure.
It is. I'm sorry, ladies. I know we're want to preach equality, but it is. It's different for boys. Yes, I had shown my son to Nature P, and after I had showed him, then he believed it to be okay, wherever we were. So we'd be playing outside and, where did James go? And there he is. I'm like, okay, I'm sorry. This is a last resort kind of thing. Like, we should really be respectful and you need to let us know.
During the pandemic.
Oh, geez, that was so terrible.
Yeah, because all the bathrooms are closed. You can't go inside the buildings, right? But I took the kids and we were out in front of Ruthie's work. She was working at the office at the time. And so it's this like business complex. So there's like this parking lot, no cars. So like the kids had their scooters and they were just going. And at that time I was doing like kind of like vlogging on my YouTube channel. And I was sitting there like getting some shots of them. And then I was like getting a shot of me. Like, I don't even know what I was talking about, but I was on there talking. And then as I was recording, like I put my phone down and I'm like, where are the kids? And I look over and I'm pretty sure it was Abel. I don't know if it was Mattel. One of the boys had their pants all the way down to their ankles and just letting it loose on the bush that was there. And I was like looking around. I'm like, well, good thing it's, pandemic because no one's out here. But they didn't say anything to me. They just went directly to the bush. They knew what to do.
The pandemic was the worst, too.
It was hard.
Did quite a bit of not quite a bit, but we did travel at some points. And it's like for adults, I was like, dude, where am I supposed to go to the bathroom?
Yeah, no, for sure.
You know what I mean? I guess.
And they wouldn't let you go in.
No.
For nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, pandemic was hard.
What a crazy time, huh?
Yeah. I think if there's one thing that I could have done better in potty training was just my communication with the child, with my child, with my boys.
Boy.
come here, boy. I was just with my kids. Like, again, I didn't have a lot of patience. I was short fused, and like, especially when it came to stuff like that, it just like really upset me. And I think I did more damage than good, because made them feel a certain way about coming to me about having to go to the bathroom. Made them feel a certain way about even like, and I think Ruthie had told me this one time. If not Ruthie, I heard it from somewhere else, like maybe watching videos, but I'm pretty sure she's told me that, or sent me the video. Like in my communication with them, like how many times I maybe made them feel shame for what they, for the accident, and I'm like, when I heard that, I was like, dang it. Like, yeah, like that's, God doesn't do that. Like when I make a mistake, God's not like, what are you doing, man? He probably should at this point, but he's not like, making me feel shame. He gives me grace. He forgives me. He loves me. Yes, there is a like, you messed up here. This is not okay. We're better than this. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that should have been my communication with my kids when they had an accident, but it wasn't. It was I already told you. You know better. Right. You know where the toilet's at. You know this. And so I did more damage with that. I wish I would have, really looked at it differently and communicated differently. So if you're a dad, if you're a papi and you're listening to this and watching this and you're going through potty training, your words matter, especially when it comes to potty training or anything that you're helping, learning math, reading, anything that has to do with like learning something, it matters. Like, and then when they do it, even if they do it every day, even if they get it right, even if they complete the task, like give them their kudos, like congratulate them, make them feel like, yes, that's exactly it. You got it. You figured it out. You know how to do this. You're the man, whatever. Like, but make them understand like, oh, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. Yeah. Rather than like, oh, cool. Good job. Yeah. See what happens when you do what I tell you, it's just like a completely different tone. And so I wish I would have been better.
We're going through this parenting class at our church, and somebody, I think it was in the video, they had said that, when you give like an encouragement to a child, it's like you're giving them $5, in the bank, right? So for every encouragement you give, it's $5 for the bank, but for every discouragement or something, a 20 comes out, right? And so it's this concept of like, wow, how much are you investing in your kids? Yeah. And then not only from you, but from people just around the world, right? Like just being out there, like how many times are they being discouraged? How many times are they being kind of like attacked or just, disrespected or whatever? And every time the pullout is always way more. So the more that we can encourage and more money we can put into the bank, the better that, position they'll be whenever they go back out to the world. So for me, that was really eye-opening. I was like, yeah, even the little things, like the very little things. Hey, great job for listening. Hey, thank you for praying with us. Oh, good job, drawing this, that kind of thing. And hopefully trying to fill up that bank. So when those things eventually come, whether it be from you or from someone else out in the world, like they feel that they have enough value that's been invested in them that they don't feel that they're bankrupt. Yeah. So it's like, oh, that's pretty good.
Wow. What class is that?
You know what? John Mark Comer, we just gave you the book. His parents, I guess, have like a parental, course thing. So yeah.
I'm excited to get in that book, by the way.
Yeah, it's a good one. I heard. I haven't read it.
Yeah, well, Janet told me. Janet's like, oh, you're gonna love this book. So
Janet's like the most hyped person ever, though. So
what do you mean? Like she overhypes things?
Oh well, you remember when we went to Soul Food? I think it's funny because Soul Food, Petaluma. Now it's in Petaluma. It was in San Rafael. Right. It's our favorite place, like ever.
It's great.
And yeah. But there have been times where she's just like, this is the best, that kind of thing. And then people get there and they're like, expectations aren't quite reached. And so, I'm like, Jenna, like, trust me, like the food's going to speak for itself. You don't have to like constantly give glowing reviews kind of thing. So, but she is right. I did enjoy his book. So Good job, honey.
She did get this right though. I did.
No. She gets all things right. It's just sometimes she can be overhyped. That's the person that you want in your corner, though.
For sure.
So
yeah,
I'm glad I have that in my corner.
You have a cheerleader.
Yeah,
that's awesome. So yeah, when it comes to potty training, I think like all these things, I think it translates to other things too, like we talked about. But I want to speak, specifically of potty training because I'm about to, probably in, I don't know. See, Dalia is a year and where are we at? February.
Don't look at me. Dude.
No, I'm looking at you because I'm trying to think. Tell me, Eli, her age. She's a year and 7 months. About
yeah.
You're in 7 months. So
sure.
So she's getting close, and honestly, at her rate, I'm like, dude, it could happen at any moment.
Yeah, it could happen this summer.
Very much so. I believe so. It's going to happen this summer. That's why I'm like, oh, Jesus. Because we're getting ready to go to Disneyland in October. So I'm like, oh my gosh, now I'm thinking about it. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're going to have a 2-year-old who we're potty training while oh my gosh. Lord Jesus. Can we start praying now, please, for me? For me and Ruthie? I didn't think about that, but yeah.
Now you're thinking about it.
Now I'm thinking about it. Now I'm like, oh, another hurdle. It'll be fine. Yeah. She's smart. So yeah, like if you're potty training, like thinking about all these things we've talked about, I think is important. But I think also like not going to be perfect, and it's okay. Yeah. It's not a reflection of you being a bad parent if your child's having a hard time. It's not. No. It is a reflection of you being a bad parent if you're not there to help during that bad time. So think about that. Hey guys, thank you so much for joining us on this episode. My question for you this week is, what is one tip or advice that you have about potty training? Go ahead and drop it in the comments. Help another papi out, someone who may be potty training their kids. What is one tip or advice that you have for potty training? If this is your first time on the podcast, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the podcast. We drop new episodes every week, and they're all about fatherhood. I love you guys. Until next time, peace out.